Is it working? There we go. Welcome back, everybody, to another Agency Owners Q&A. This time I'm doing it live on YouTube because Facebook has cock-blocked me. By the way, the algorithm, the reason I'm blocked, by the way, which was automatically, it's an algorithm, it's never a human. Somebody said, hey, I'm trying to monetize a YouTube thread or a LinkedIn thread that's gone viral. What should I do? And I said, you should deal drugs in the comments, which I thought was pretty fucking hilarious, but the Zuck didn't think so. Anyways, welcome back, everybody. For those of you guys who are usual listeners to the show, also for those of you guys who are not, my name's Frankie Finn. I built it in 20 years, count them, 3 of my own agencies, up to 100 plus clients. I've been doing this, long time. Wrote 2 best-selling books. You can kind of see them over my shoulder. And I'm here to help you guys who are building this more beach, less laptop dream, the thousands of you guys out there. So I appreciate you guys all for tuning in. Quick little announcement just before we get rocking and rolling on your specific questions. First thing is I wanted to say I will be closing enrollment to both our Fast Starters program and our Wolfpack in January of 2026, which means if you want to get in on those, you got about 45 days, and then they will be closed, and there will be a waiting list. And honestly, I'm not sure I will open them again. I'm pretty happy with the number of people, so I'm not saying they will be closed forever, but they might be. I'm leaning that direction, but I won't close the door on it forever because I do love this stuff and I do love you guys. But so if you guys are interested in those, I suggest you check them out sooner than later because they're at the very least they are going to be closed for several months and possibly, doors closed forever. Anyways, let's get into the good shit. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. With the man they call the man, the greatest of all time, His Holiness, Lord of the Dad Guns. Wow! All right, who's up first? All right, so we've got our man Scott H. He says, curious how you've done revenue share with clients on SEO and also web design. Totally straightforward with PPC, but a little hard for me to wrap my brain around it for the other two. Thank you, sir. I actually wouldn't recommend you do it with web design. So there's the answer to that question. But having said that, we do have people doing it for SEO. And I can think it's like, one of my oldest, dearest friends, Dan, who he does it for like a $300 million a year roofing company, and he's a revenue share partner. So they have like, I don't know, like 40 locations, and he does the SEO for like 38 of those locations. And he gets a share every time the phone rings. He gets a share of the magic. What's up, Hampson? Happy Monday to you too. By the way, we're doing it on YouTube. I see the fucking comments. So up yours, Zuck. Like YouTube's clearly got better technology than you. So yeah, I got a little sidetracked. So with SEO, before I always say like the worst thing that can ever happen in a partnership deal is like partners just don't pay you and you get screwed. So I'm taking off my socks because it's really hot in here. It was cold this morning, but it's not so cold anymore. It's back to being 90 degrees midday. And I got the window open over here. So I wouldn't do a revenue share deal without testing a partner small. Like when you test a partner small, you want to see more often than not, can they close the deals? Do they pay you quickly? Before you jump like completely into bed with a revenue share partner deal, I always test them small. And if you don't want to do that with paid ads, which is totally understandable, do it with something with their own list, a database reactivation, or follow up with prospects who almost bought. But don't, man, like for the love of God, don't commit to 12 months of SEO without knowing whether or not you're going to get paid, right? Like you think about the actual dating process. I'm not talking about getting business, but like, finding a partner, like a romantic partner, right? You don't just fucking marry them, right? Like, okay, I'm not saying that never happens, but usually you go on some dates, you test each other out, you feel each other out, you make sure you're a fit. And only when that has happened and you're stoked with it, like, do you continue forward? It's the same thing with revenue share partners. Like, you don't jump into bed and go, let's get married and let's be partners. You test them small. You have a little date. Do they do what they say they're going to do? Are they cool? Things like that. And if they are, then you do more. And if they aren't, well, you don't. So, anyways, I know that's probably an overly simplistic answer, but I'll tell you, the first thing I like to do with any revenue share partner is send something to their past buyers, because if their past buyers won't buy it, then you ain't gonna have much luck with a revenue share deal. If people who bought from them once wouldn't buy it again, then you ain't gonna have any luck with that partner. And then I want to see if they pay me quickly. So I'll usually just run a little campaign, and then I might do something like, "Hey, I'll do all your SEO for your 38 locations." But before you commit to that, test them, test them, test them. This is why everybody. By the way, like as a general rule, I go, "What can I do in an hour or two that would move the needle?" So I know whether or not this is a good partner. That's how you do it. So some of the partners we're doing stuff with now, the reason we're scaling shit up is because it's like I've had really good first dates, second dates. Like I can think of one of my partners. We did something together, a piece of content that had no tracking, no offer. It was just, hey, if you come from Frankie stuff, mention my name. That was our deal. And he had 3 people mention my name, and I got a $5,000 commission from each of those. So he sent me a check for 15 grand. And the reason I say that, it would have been the easiest thing in the world for him to screw me, because I had no way of tracking it. I had no way of knowing it, or he could have withheld the funds. And yet they know if they take care of their partners, they ultimately take care of themselves. And so they were like, yeah, dude, let's fucking do it. And yeah. So, when a partner does that and they take care of you and they pay on time and they're cool, then you want to scale with those people. And when they don't, that's when you go the other direction. Anyways, hope that's helpful, my dudes and dudettes. Joseph says, haven't ran meta ads in a while, thinking about starting up again. You like lead forms or messenger ads better? All right. I'm going to rant on this hardcore, my man, Joseph. So I am part of a lot of Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, communities, and so forth. And man, when campaigns don't work, motherfuckers always look at like the technical side of it. Am I running lead conversion or conversion campaigns, or only scale winners and duplicate? And nobody ever thinks it's people, it's who we're targeting, it's offers, it's what we're saying. And almost always, I'm a big believer in psychology before technology. So when it ain't working, the first thing I look at is offers, not what type of campaign am I running. Now, as far as the campaign, because you asked, um, it really depends, right? So lead ads get you a lot of people, but you're going to get spam leads in there. So lead ads are like, a lot of people just click them accidentally. They're scrolling, they accidentally click it. Their information's already pre-filled. They don't even remember what they signed up for. I'm convinced Facebook has a lot of bots, because when you run lead ads, you get a lot of like fake fills. But at the end of the day, sometimes having more leads is better, especially if you got a newer offer and you want to get people on a list and follow up with them, right? Having said that, for me personally, all our shit is conversion stuff. And I did a video on this channel, but like generally speaking, what we do is I do hybrid funnels, which are, first you get a low ticket. So for many of you guys, this is how you got into my funnel. You bought a book. There's one right there, which by the way, you guys can find on beyondtheagencybox.com. But that's our ad is not sign up for some shit. It's not a messenger thing. It's a conversion ad. It's buy the fucking book, right? And then we offer more stuff on the back end of that. Sometimes our conversions, depending on what we're doing, if we're doing it for clients, they're like book a call funnels. Even though obviously you guys know I'm the Loom Close video, I think there's a benefit to when you're running a new funnel to start with calls. And reason being is you get feedback from people. I'll tell you, the best offers I've ever written were the things when I took notes on like 5 or 10 calls and then took all those things and put them into an offer. So chances are that's the other conversion piece. Now, whether you want to do that like messenger ads, to be honest, I like all ads. I like anywhere my target client is. I like LinkedIn ads. I run Reddit ads. I run Twitter ads. I run YouTube ads. I run Facebook ads. You know why? I like ads. I like ads that get in front of my target client. So I'm kind of agnostic to the question. I run Google display ads. Not many people run banner ads. This motherfucker here, right, does. I'm not a huge spender. I mean, there's people who spend way more than we do. I'd probably say I spend like 4,000 or 5,000 a month. So like that's kind of small on the grand scheme of things. But for us, like that's enough to fill capacity for everything I want to do right now. But having said that, like um, ads, period, are good as long as you're getting in front of the right people. Dan Kennedy says the trifecta: right person, right offer, right message, right time. Like as long as you hit those details, like all of the advertising platforms work. So the reason I'm kind of harping on this question is because a lot of times when ads are not working or when somebody's new and they're trying it out, they think, oh, I need to do this kind of campaign versus that kind of campaign. And they obsess about the technical shit. And as an afterthought is, what am I offering to who? And to me, if you want to make more money, reverse the order of those things. Spend way more time thinking about what am I offering into who, and then think like technical shit as a but technical shit to me is like 10-20% of running ads. I'm not saying it's zero, but Perry Marshall has a thing that like really cleared the mud for me. He called it forest trees leaves. He says big shit is the forest, medium-sized shit is the trees, and small shit is leaves. And almost always when people like run ads and they're trying to figure it out, they always start with the small shit: green button versus red button, messenger ad versus, lead form, right? And then maybe they'll get to the medium sized shit like change a headline, right? But to me, like what you're actually offering to who, that's the big fucking forest swings the needle. So to me, when you're first starting out a campaign and you haven't been running them in a while, you only got to test forest shit. And I usually just test one ad at a time, right? I know everybody says you got to run all these tests, you got to do all this shit. I don't. I do one bet. I like come up with the best fucking ad I can write, run it for a week, and at the end of the week, if it worked, I keep doing it. And if it doesn't, next week I got another ad, and I just repeat that week after week until we find something that works. And then eventually you end up with a library of like 5, 10, sometimes 30, 40 winners. Oh, and the other thing is that I do differently is I believe if you're spending money on paid ads, don't ever let a click ever in human history. Don't let a click go to waste. So that means like retarget people forever, right? So to me, it's like if you spend all that money getting them to click your shit and watch your shit and look at your shit, I feel like every single platform, YouTube included, is getting to a saturation point where there's more content than people to consume it. And that means it's harder and harder to compete for people's attention. I mentioned this story, but I have some attorney friends when they started advertising. So I have a mentor. He was the first attorney to advertise on TV in his state. And at the time, there were like 4 or 5 stations, right? And he said, I ran the commercial, and he said I had 100 phone calls or something like that in the first 10 minutes. Phone blew up. Okay. Now, I have attorneys who say, well, between satellite and streaming and the 800 channels and, Netflix and Hulu and sports and all this shit, he said, it takes 6 months of repetition before people even start calling. So they don't even expect to get phone calls in the first 6 months. They have to like repeat their message. So I look at it, we're like way closer to that than we are to the world where you just turn it on and the phone starts ringing. We're way closer to the 6 months of repetition. And so to me, like anytime you run some shit, like show them your best shit again and again. And retargeting is the cheapest part of advertising. I like, to me, I'm not saying this is what you guys have to do, but we have 30, 40 retargeting creatives across campaigns. If you've ever clicked our shit, you know what I'm talking about. Homeboy over here retargets your ass to oblivion, and we ain't gonna stop. So I'm not saying you guys have to do it like me, but it starts with just one good ad. Just like put your best ad. Over time, you'll have a library of winners, and then you add those to your cycle of things, and then you just keep going. And by the way, the things you think will win are never the things that actually win. Like I wrote this whole book right here about not having meetings and phone calls, and somehow all you guys know me as the Loom guy, the guy who closes our shit on video, right? I didn't think that would be the winning hook in one of our funnels, but it is. And so we just keep talking about it, right? So it'll be the same for you. Like the thing that'll crush it won't be what you think it is. But the reason I'm harping on this is just because like don't obsess about the tech shit. Obsess about person, offer, messaging. What are you actually going to give somebody in exchange for what? That's the detail that to me matters the most. Christian says, how many sales is it considered a validated offer? I've never gotten a concrete answer on this. Is it 1, 5, 10 sales? Okay. So I think part of the confusion is there's different answers for different industries. So if you're selling e-com and you're trying to sell kids baby toys for $7.99, if you can even get toys for $7.99 these days, the number of sales you're going to need to validate that offer. So to be clear, let us talk about agency owner offers, meaning you are selling to most likely a local business. I know some of you guys sell to e-commerce stores. Some of you guys also sell to like SaaS companies. Some of you guys sell to like online coaches and experts and things like that. But probably 80-90% of you guys, if you listen to me, you sell to local businesses, plumbers, dentists, doctors, lawyers, butchers, accountants, candlestick makers. You got it. Massage parlors if you're Cole. I ain't judging you, Cole. Yeah, I'm sure it's the massage they're paying for. So the answer to that question is 1. Okay. And the reason is simple. Okay. It's because they're almost exactly the same. Like the problems 1 plumber has, or the problems 2 plumber has, or the problems 3 plumbers have, or the problems 4 plumbers have, etc. Right? So if 1 plumber buys into it, you can be damn sure 1,000 other plumbers got the exact same issue. So I say that because like you don't need a million people. You got 1, you got plenty. That's all you really got to worry about. You got 1, you got plenty. So yeah, so like that's my way of saying like if 1 person buys your offer, and by the way, I think it's useful to think of an offer, not necessarily 100% synonymous, but offer, outcome, offer, outcome, offer, outcome. What most people think of an offer is your service plus a guarantee. So I see this like somebody was doing Google and they said, I'll get you to number 1 in Google, guaranteed, right? That's more like a deliverable with a guarantee / we'll get you in the Google. And the offer is what it does for the other person. So I'll give you an example of this. My favorite example of an outcome. Okay. We have a guy, his deliverable, he's in the mastermind. His deliverable is Google ads. Okay. So you run some fucking ads, right? That's Google ads, right? Now he does it for plumbers, and plumbers said to him, is there any way you could get us new construction stuff instead of emergency calls? And he said, why do you want new construction instead of emergency calls? And they said, well, we don't really like emergency calls because we get covered in shit. Right? Like, imagine that. That's real. That's some real shit, right? Like, they get called, some fat guy had like a 400-pound floater full of corn, house smells, toilets clogged. Gee, boss, can you help me unclog this? That's an emergency call for a plumber. And you can get those with Google Ads. New construction, you can also get with Google Ads. But here's the difference. New construction is just a pipe. Nobody's even used it yet. You can do that in a suit and tie. You don't even get dirty. So instead of saying, we do Google Ads guaranteed, he says, we'll get you new construction jobs for $220 a piece using Google Ads, right? And they're buying the outcome, which is the new construction jobs for a set price. So I'm saying that to you guys because your offer is more like the promise, is more like what happens for the other person. And too many people think your deliverable is it. So if somebody buys into your promise one time, like if 1 yoga studio owners buys a promise, you can rest assured 100 other yoga studio owners got the exact same problem, need the exact same thing, and will pay the exact same money. Make money, 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 make money, money, money. All right. I'm a little amped up this Monday morning. So one person buys your agency offer. And here's the thing most people miss with this. It's almost always going deeper and more specific, not wider and more vague. I'll give you one more example. Plastic surgeons used to tell me, is there any way you could get us cool sculpting patients? And I'd say, why cool sculpting patients? And they'd say, well, with everything else, I have OR costs and I got to spend my time doing it. So OR means they have to pay for the operating room. I didn't really think about that, but they go to the hospital, they rent a room. It's usually at least a few $1,000s. And also, they have to physically do it, right? Like they're the one cutting open the boobies and stuffing them full of the plastic shit. So those Barbie looking babes get those big old balloon titties. You know, the ones I'm talking about, right? But The cool sculpting machine, it's this like laser machine that supposedly like freezes the fat out of you. And they said they really liked them because it makes $100 a session. They don't have to do it. They can have like a nurse or a staff member do it. And people usually pay for like 20, 30 sessions. If they come once, they tend to keep coming for it. And so they make like $2,000, $3,000 without having to do anything. Right. So our offer isn't, we're going to do SEO, we'll make you a website. Those are deliverables, right? Same way that a restaurant deliverable is you're going to get fed. But an offer is like 2-for-1 chicken wings, Thursday special, right? So if somebody buys into your one promise, chances are somebody else will do it, right? And in our case, like cool sculpting was another example of that. Hey, I'll get you cool sculpting patients. If one plastic surgeon wants that, you can rest assured 100 more do it. Want it as well. And one of the easiest ways to find out what this is, by the way, is you join a Facebook group or you join a LinkedIn group and you ask your ideal clients, you say, which kind of clients, customers, patients, which one of those do you wish you had less of? You ask that as one question. And then a short time later, you ask, which ones do you wish you had more of? And they'll give you the answer. And all you do is you specialize in the thing they want more of. We say, hey, I know you're used to getting the ones you wish you had less of, but we only help you specialize in the ones you want more of. It sounds so ridiculously simple, but online entrepreneurs don't think about this because usually as you make more money, you make more money. And a lot of local businesses, they have hard fixed expenses. So like imagine a roofer drives out to fix a leak. They might be able to charge $100 to put on a shingle, but by the time they paid for the truck, the gas, the insurance, the employee, the branding, the health benefits, they actually don't make anything at all. The owner makes nothing. So you saying, I'll get you more of something they don't make any money on is not appealing, which is why they like certain stuff more than others. So you want to promise that and focus on building a system to do that. And where there's smoke, there's fire. If one wants it, they all want it. So anyways, I hope that's a helpful answer. Our man Andre says, mostly, this was in regards to deal making, but I decided just to include it on our channel. By the way, for those of you guys who don't know, we have a sister channel I just started called Passive Automated Recurring Income. It is based on my second book, and it is all about a subject I call deal making. Example of deal making, I got to meet Kevin Harrington, the Shark Tank guy, at an event recently, and he was talking about how he built his fortune. And he basically found a TV station that was not in the early days. They didn't have any programming after like 8 o'clock, and they would just show the bars. And he went to them and said, I can help you make money and have a cool show. And then he went to a trade show and saw a guy who was selling Ginsu knives and doing this presentation one at a time. He said, we can record this and get it on TV and help you sell millions of knives. He sold more knives than pretty much any motherfucker alive. But here's what's interesting. Wasn't his TV station, wasn't his knives. He found what I call distribution and a product. And you would think on their own, distribution and a product should go together. But distribution never thinks to look for products, and products never think to look for distribution. So when you play the middleman or middle lady or middle, whatever your fucking weird ass pronouns are, sorry, dude, I'm not politically correct, but if you play middle, whatever, middle donkey, there can be a lot of income in it for you, and you don't have to provide the distribution. Cool thing is, in this day and age, this is all that's required for people to get audiences. There's people who have audiences who have no idea what to do with them in every direction. All right. So anyways, with that little background, let's talk about Andre's question. He says, I mostly wonder about the technical side. Who should make the offer to the audience? Me, as I know marketing better, or the product owner so I don't have to handle making creatives? What is a good percentage of profits to ask for the audience owner, myself, respectively? What happens if I were to buy a YouTube channel? Who would make new videos? How is the money going to be transferred if I rent an audience? Does the product owner send the money for an audience owner directly, or do I act as a middleman? What to put in a written deal, both for the product owner and the audience owner if I were to rent it? I've started looking to buy some audiences, but I'm interested in renting them as well, especially on YouTube. By the way, you guys would be fucking blown away with the fact that you can often get somebody who spent 5 years, 10 years building an audience to sell it to you for less than $100, right? I just bought a Facebook group related to AI, 17,000 people in the group. Guess how much I paid for it? I paid $200, which is usually $100 higher than I go. The guy said I could really use $200, and I was feeling charitable. But Imagine how much work it is to build a 17,000 person community from scratch. And people do this all the time for two simple reasons. One, it becomes a lot of work monitoring spam, keeping up content, things like that. And they usually aren't monetizing it. They don't make any offers. And so it just becomes a lot of work with no reward. And they get sidetracked with other things. And so you can come in and offer to buy it. And you'd be amazed. You can buy YouTube channels for less than $100. You can buy Facebook groups. You can buy email lists. It's kind of crazy how, and you can just like literally start making related offers, and you'd be amazed at how much easier it is to monetize AI shit, starting with 17,000 people, right? In my case. All right, so let's take Andre's questions one at a time. Who should make the offer to the audience? Me, as I know the marketing better, or the product owner, so I don't have to handle making creatives. Always, I would say you're going to do a better job if you control the offer, but I actually have it come from them. So for example, one of the things we've done in the past is we'll get a YouTube channel and we'll pin a comment below. And then we just have the creator say, check out the pinned comment below. And the pinned comment we wrote, it's our offer. It's our creative, right? We don't rely on them to know how to sell because we already know they don't know how to sell, right? They're entertainers usually, not people who like know how to build a business, right? And so what we're putting in there is our own stuff, but we're having them bring attention to it. That's usually like the best hybrid is you're writing it, you're creating it, you're putting it together, but it's them saying, go check it out. What is a good percentage of profits to ask for? So the audience owner and myself respectively. Typically, you're going to ask for 30 to 50% of what the actual profit take home is. So with digital shit, that's really easy. Like you got $100 course. Usually it's almost all profit if it's a digital course. So you make $50, I make $50. Or if they got like a massive reach, you might say you make $70 and I make $30, right? You get to keep $2 and I get to keep $1, right? The idea being I'll bake a bigger pie for everybody. I just want a little piece of that bigger pie that we create. So typically that's a typical percentage. Where it gets a little messy is when you deal in physical stuff. You know, obviously if they're selling $20 baby toys, I don't know why I'm going to baby toys, but you know, it might cost them $16 in orders to fulfill on that. And there's actually only $4 of profit. So you guys would split up the actual $4, but usually 30 to 50% of the profits are like a typical share. He says, what happens if I were to buy a YouTube channel? Who would make new videos? This cool thing about this is it's really up to you and what you guys can negotiate. Right? So it's like you can say, hey, I'll buy this channel, but you got to help me make, videos for the next while. Or you can say, I'll buy it, but I'm going to start making videos. Or you can say, like, you can clone them with AI and make AI videos. Or you can just chop up their existing videos and create spin-off videos. Like there's no have-tos. All of this is based on what you can negotiate. That's part of the reason there's such deals. So like, for example, if I go to Facebook or Google and I go to buy ads, they know what their distribution is worth. So they have a set cost, they have a bidding system, they got a pretty sophisticated algorithm. But your average YouTube creator, the smaller fish, the smaller ponds, has no idea. And so it's really whatever you can negotiate. That's what it's worth. So I know that's a little tricky. He says, how is the money going to be transferred if I rent an audience? Does the product owner send the money for the audience owner directly, or do I act as middleman? Here's the simple answer to that. Is we put our link there and we are the ones who pay them, not the other way around. One of my dear friends, Tony T. Garden, Tony T, shout out to the man. He calls this the toll booth position, right? So if you think about this, imagine you're driving, I'll give you a real example. I go to Cabo Airport, which is 2 hours from me. And on the way to Cabo Airport, they have a toll road. Now, if they want to get paid, do you think they collect the money up front? Or do you think they ask for it on the back end and say, would it be okay if you paid me? Right? No, they collect that shit up front. They're like, if you want to go anywhere past this point. So I'll give you an example. It's actually a failed deal, but nonetheless kind of illustrates the point. We had a real estate creator and we set up a software deal. So I went to a few of the software companies and said, he's got this big following. We'd love to promote your stuff that helps these people implement it. Could you give us a special deal? They gave us a special deal. Then we pinned a special deal below each of his videos. That's my link. That ain't the fucking creator's link. So when we get paid, I pay them. right? So that means that eliminates the, hey, dear boss, can you please give me my fee? No, like I'm collecting the fucking money and then paying you. And that's the toll booth position. So that's how you get paid in deal making. You don't ask them to pay you. And you position this as a benefit, by the way. You say, I'll set up everything for you. You don't need to do anything. All I need in your case is just copy and paste this little thing below the video and tell people in the video it's below the video, and I'll take care of everything else, and I'll send you a check every month, right? That's a benefit, but I have the toll booth position, right? That's my link. That's my setup. That's my payment. It goes to my affiliate account. I'm paying you, not the other way around. So that's how you don't get fucked on those deals, by the way. And he says, what to put in a written deal, both for the product owner and for the audience owner if I were to rent it. I actually don't do anything in writing, just so you know. Like, I can tell in the first 3 to 4 days, if they take care of you and pay you as they're supposed to, you do more. If they don't, you pull out, which I got 3 kids. I don't know much about pulling out, but supposedly you can do it. All right, enough of the shenanigans, but for real, I don't think you need sophisticated contracts. I do everything first date, coffee date, first date, marriage. So what you're talking about is a first date. So, and the last example, I pinned some links below the guy's video. If it works out and we make some sales, I do more of it. If it doesn't, sorry guys, the test didn't work out. I'll know. And then it's easier to sell people because instead of having to get contracts and lawyers involved, it's just like, why don't we just run a little test, and in a week or two, I'll know whether or not we'll make sales. And at the end of that, we can do more if it works, and we don't have to if it doesn't, right? That's how you control yourself in a deal-making position. He said, I've started to look to buy some audience, but I'm interested in renting them as well. I think the first move in deal making is buying something that's worth money. And by the way, a part of how I discovered this, just so you guys know, like take you back a little bit about this. So I have a friend and mentor, Matt Larson, in the real estate space, and he has 12 real estate spinoff businesses. They all like are 7 figures plus. He's got property management. He's got a dumpster business. He's got a fix and flip business. He's got a contracting business. And he also has one that's a coaching and consultant on there. And he says, I've never been able to figure out this selling without phone calls thing. And I said to him, Matt, I don't have a lot of skills in life, but I know how to do that. And I think your stuff would be easy to sell. And so he told me about a virtual assistant offer that they were trying to do to help people find deals. So they have virtual assistants in the Philippines. They call the phones. They do all the work finding deals for you and signing them up. They even like negotiate with sellers. It's pretty amazing. And he asked me if I wanted a team for myself. And I was like, just to try it out. And I was like, fuck yeah. So I got my own real estate team. I'm small time, but we've done some deals in Knoxville, Tennessee. So we do like a deal or 2 a month. That's the kind of the rate I'm at, 10 to 30K a month kind of thing. And anyway, but the magic of it is when we started doing real estate, the reason I tell you guys this story is when we started doing real estate, it became really fucking obvious to me that you make money in real estate when you buy shit, not when you sell it. Right. So the money's realized when you sell it. But if you buy it, like I just saw a guy post in a group and he basically, here's my numbers. And somebody said, you'd have to get that house $100,000 cheaper than you're getting it for it to actually be a deal. And basically you were paying too much, so it's never going to work. Right. And I realized that there were digital equivalents of all these things. And yet, because most people didn't recognize the opportunity, you could get those deals really cheap. So imagine, like, for example, there's an apartment building. It's vacant. It's abandoned, right? We can see that the owners are neglecting it. Well, we know in real estate, I can make an offer to get that cheap and fix and flip it, and it'll be worth money. But the apartment building owner knows even abandoned, his apartment building is worth something, right? When it's an abandoned YouTube channel or an abandoned email list or an abandoned Facebook group or Instagram channel, they often have no idea it's worth anything. And so your ability to negotiate prices on it is just amazing. And so I always think that step one in deal making is negotiate for an audience. You can usually get an awesome audience for under $100. If you guys want to learn how to do that, by the way, it's in that book, Passive Automated Recurring Income. You can find a digital version of it, by the way, at digitaldealmakershub.com. If you guys are interested, that one right there is beyondtheagencybox.com. And a lot of the principles of deal making are how we grow agencies, just so you know. It's like we get the audience first, because if you're trying to sell eggs, on the side of the street, you're not going to be as successful if you try and get your eggs sold in Walmart. Get your eggs sold in Walmart, you're going to sell a bazillion eggs faster, right? Same thing with agency services. It's like we're pursuing distribution, we're pursuing audiences first, which by the way is how Kevin Harrington got rich as fuck. He found TV stations that were under monetized, helped them monetize, took a little share of the sales, and made $300 million doing it. And by the way, it wasn't his TV station, wasn't his product. So that's pretty incredible when you think about it. The last one we got up, unless you guys want to add any more in the comments. Rochelle says, I have a question for the Q&A. I'm torn between the strategy of building industry relationships like in the 90-day agency or using the Google review card strategy. My niche would be roofer/exterior trades, but like the idea of doing larger deals with better clients. I spent 10 years in corporate at one of the biggest manufacturers, so I know the roofing industry well. I also like the idea of being able to offer something of value for low cost with the review cards and have a semi-automatic lead gen happening in the background. Well, I'd actually say there is a happy medium. Those review cards are, for those of you guys who haven't seen, we have a training somewhere on this channel that I did in the last like 2 months with our man, Kevin. Kevin is crushing it inside of our Fast Starters program. And he, one of his things is he meets new business owners and he gives them these programmed Google review cards, QR code, and you activate them and you give them to a business owner and it helps them just like get Google reviews. And what the magic of it is, the barrier to all sales is trust. Like business owners just don't trust marketers. And why should they, right? Like they've been screwed so many times. There's so many people who just made pie in the sky, empty promises. And so when you do something small but meaningful that helps them, they just believe you. They believe you, which is what most marketers don't have. They don't have clients who believe them. But when you help them for real and just give them something small that helps them, by the way, the cards cost 20 cents a piece. So he just takes it, uses the app, programs it. Here you go. Here's your card. And people go, bum. It works, right? So anyway, share that with you guys, because if you want to build relationships, you can use those cards to build relationships. You don't actually have to sell Google reviews on the back half of that. It's just a nifty little tool to get your foot in the door. And part of what I actually created for our Fast Starters people is everybody says they want to be able to close deals, but I actually think the number one thing people struggle with is opening, because as mentioned, people are fucking jaded and burned out and don't believe you and don't trust you. And so the more you can walk in the door, I think of this like, you know, like when I lived in Germany with the wife and we had one kid and eventually made a second in Germany. I remember if somebody invited you to some shit, there was like an unwritten rule that you had to bring a gift. So you bring a bottle of wine or some cake, or I don't know, you just got to, you can't show up empty. I think this is the ultimate strategy to opening the door with anyone, is instead of showing up to the party and going, hey, do you want to give me money? Do you want to jump on a call? You go, hey, I brought you a gift. I brought you a bottle of wine. I brought you a piece of cake. In this case, I brought you a Google review card. And we've mapped out gifts for all of the top services. So Google ads, Facebook ads, SEO, web design, reviews, and sales copy, so that you always show up to the party with a gift. When you show up to the party with a gift, people like you a lot more than if you don't show up to the party with a gift. So, for those of you guys who are interested, I mentioned that in the beginning that I'm closing the door on that for at least a long while, possibly permanently. We'll see. Part of the reason is just so you guys, I'm a little burnt out on it. I love it, but I'm also a little burnt out. Some of the shit we're doing is so big that it's like it's hard to justify spending a lot of time on to me what is smaller stuff, even though I love you guys dearly and it's a lot of fun for me. It's like, you know, I remember actually, like as an example, I had a karate guy sign up and he just wanted a little bit of web help. He was super small time and paid me $100 a month. And then we started growing our Facebook ad agency for attorneys. And I had, you know, 20, 30 clients at $2,500 a month. And it was like, the karate guy's name was Marcel. I was like, Marcel, I love you, man, but I got to let you go. Can't be spending time on this $100 shit when I $60,000 shit over here. Right. So there's, you know, just a little bit of that. But I appreciate you guys, and you guys are awesome, and have a lot of fun doing it. So, but I just say that to you guys, if you want to get in, the clock is fucking ticking for real, for real. But anyways, to your question, Rochelle, I always look at it like there's no have to's. This is one of the hardest parts of growing this business. Everybody thinks you have to do shit. You do not. There is only choose to. Employees have to. Entrepreneurs operate from choose to. So to me, like, which one of those do you want to choose? Like, they both work. By the way, there's 1,000 ways to be right and a million ways to fail. I always look for, like, to me, the first thing is get clear on who you want to do this for. So it sounds like in your case, roofing makes a lot of sense. Okay. And I would probably go a little bit deeper on that. Like, find a subspecialty: commercial roofing, metal roofing, roofing with solar panels, roofing and gutters, right? Then I would say, like, research their problems a little bit before you make up your mind about what you want to do, and then engineer a strategy that helps them solve their problem, but also, like, gives you an easy foot in the door. Because I think too many people, like, I had this question. I did an Ask Me Anything on Facebook like a day or two ago. And one of the questions somebody asked me is, what skills should I learn next? Like, I'm trying to go be useful in the marketplace. And I understand the sentiment of the question, but I think it's the wrong question to be asking. And it's a question that will ultimately keep you broke. I know Alex Hormozy's big on, like, get skills. And I think you should have skills. So I'm not telling you not to not get skills. But I think what you first have to do before you figure out which skills you want to learn is you have to get clear on who are we actually doing this for and what problems are they trying to solve. And then what skills do we need to learn to help them do that? Because what ends up happening if you don't do that, you create what I call Me Too offers in the marketplace. And so an example of, like, a Me Too offer, my favorite example, okay? So, like, back home where I'm from, there is just Windsor, Ontario, Canada, for those of you guys who are wondering, close enough to Detroit, Michigan to hear the gunshots, but without Canadian enough to not get shot at. There are way too many auto body shops. And I can only assume there's one reason why there's too many auto body shops is because some guy sits around, says, I don't want to work for anyone else. So he starts an auto body shop. And he has entirely 100% selfish reasons to be in business. And you should have selfish reasons, but he has only selfish reasons. That's the problem, okay? So he starts his own thing, but the problem is the market didn't need another auto body shop. Even if he's got all the fucking skills in the world to be good at it, there's already 10,000 people too many in the city who have auto body shops, okay? So I actually remember the only time we had to hire an auto body shop, why this was relevant. I remember Chinese food driver smashed into my brother's car. He might have been texting or whatever, I don't know. And it smashed into my girlfriend's car. And the tailpipe of my brother's SUV went through my girlfriend's Volkswagen Beetle, which happened to be her dream car, by the way. When we started making money, I said, hey, Trish, we can buy any car we want in the world. What's your dream car? And she said, a Volkswagen Beetle. And I went, oh. But anyway, she bought a Volkswagen Beetle. And I remember when we went to go get it repaired, the insurance process makes you go to 3 different auto body shops. So we went to 3 of them, and they all said the same thing. They said, we don't work on Volkswagens. They're specialty cars with specialty parts. You got to go to this guy on Drew Larg Road. So we went to the guy on Drew Larg Road, and he was backed up for a month. He said, I'll get you a rental car. It'll take 30 days. I can fix it. It's no problem, but we're super busy. We're super backed up. So it'll be a little while. And I went, isn't that interesting? Now, the reason I tell you this story, okay, 99% of the guys who start auto body shops have skills, but they create things that are not needed or wanted in the marketplace because they started 100% with themselves. What do I know how to do? I know how to fix cars, hang my shop up. I'm a Mr. Auto Body Shop, fix it. Second guy, whether he did this on purpose or not, the Volkswagen guy, he has a market-driven reason to exist, which is Volkswagens are underserved. There's a real problem in the marketplace called there's not enough people working on Volkswagens. And so when he specializes in that, even though, like, the market itself is crowded, he's backed up for 30 days and has more work than he knows what to do with. And people throw business out. Give you one more example because I'm reading a book by a friend of mine, Sam Carlson from UpHex. He said he got started as a mortgage broker, and people said, just go talk to real estate agents. He spent like 2-3 months talking to real estate agents. You know how many deals he got? 0. Then he started looking at market-driven reasons. And he said he was flipping through a magazine, and he said he was looking at all the real estate agents. He was like, most of them had already rejected him and not bought his shit. And he said he found this lady, Christine or something like that. Kristen or Christine, one of those. Let's call her Christine because that's the name I remember. And said she did 2 things. She did, or 3 things. She did first-time home buyers. She said government financing And it said, "Se habla español." I speak Spanish in the ads. So she had first-time home buyers, government financing. Sam said a lot of the mortgage brokers hated the first-time home buyers and especially hated the government financing because it's more paperwork, it's more hand-holding. Well, Sam spoke Spanish, so he called her up and said, "Hey, I don't know if you need any help with the mortgage brokers, but I do government financing and I speak Spanish, so you wouldn't have to do any translating." She said she sent him 5 deals that fucking day because there was a market need for it. So there's always market needs, just so you guys know, that aren't met. It's just you're not finding them. So the reason I bring that up is because I get asked a lot, like, what skills should I go learn? And I'm like, I think it's a way better idea to become a student of your market. If you want to work with dentists, then learn everything you can learn about fucking dentists. And by the way, none of this shit is hidden. They're in groups. They're in Reddit. They're in Quora. They're in Facebook groups. They're in LinkedIn groups. They're on Amazon leaving reviews for books. They're talking. You just ain't reading it. And so the more you can read what their actual problems are, what they're actually stuck on, what their challenges are, and then you build your skills out of that. Because the difference between I fix cars and I fix Volkswagens is only like 10 degrees. The difference between I do mortgages for anyone and I speak Spanish and do government financing, again, 10 degrees. But the difference between those is when your need matters in the marketplace, your shit sells. And so I think this is an underrated part of it is too many people start with skills. So I feel sorry for the fucking graphic designers who get started today. There ain't no need for another graphic designer in the world in the age of Canva and Nano Banana. Like, I see kids who are graduating learning the skill of graphic design and they're fucked. But if you start with a person, like, for example, like imagine I started with best-selling authors and I said, "Hey, what do you need?" And they said, "I need a cover for my new book." Then like that's an actual need. I help New York Times best-selling authors create best-selling covers, right? That's an outcome. That's not just your off-the-shelf, I do graphic design for anybody. Excuse me. A little dry here, living in the desert. Struggle is real. So I just say that, like, don't be like everyone else selling the same shit in the same way. Don't start with the skills. Start with the market. Start with their needs. So in your case, Rochelle, you want to work with roofers. Find out what roofers hate. I can tell you at least one of the things they hate. They hate small jobs where they drive all the way across town to put one fucking shingle up and have the person bitch about the invoice when they didn't even make any fucking money. That's one of the things they hate. So if you can go, like, one of the biggest solutions you bring is like, I'll get you bigger jobs, full roofing installs, or I'll get you metal roofing, or I'll get you commercial roofing, or I'll get you flat roofing, spray jobs, whatever, right? And then you build your solution around that. There'll be an actual market need, and you'll be like the Volkswagen guy. You'll be like Sam, the mortgage broker, getting all the money. So hope that's helpful to you guys. As I mentioned in the intro, and January 26th, I won't say permanently, but I am closing the agency fast starters. I'm closing the enrollment. I should say that everybody's in there. You guys don't have anything to worry about. I'm closing the enrollment to the Wolfpack, and I probably will just not be opening that for a long time. Possibly forever. I haven't decided, honestly. Like I said, I've been doing it 7 years. I love it, but I'm also a little burnt out on it. And like I said, it's just we're doing bigger shit. And so it's hard for me to add more and more people, even though I love you guys, even though I love helping you, even though I got awesome tools and resources and community to help each other and all that. Anyways, I appreciate you guys all for tuning into these regularly. This is the first one we ever did on YouTube. I might have to do more of these. I actually did this all just because the Zuckerberg, that some bitch, got mad at a comment. I got filtered by the algorithm because it said, somebody said like, "Oh, I had a LinkedIn thing go viral and I need to sell something. What should I do in the comments?" And I said, "Sell drugs." I thought it was pretty funny, but the algorithm just doesn't like it. Said, "You can't make live videos, you bad man." So I'm like, well, YouTube will still let me. So here we are. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in and listening. And that's all I got for you guys in this Monday edition. Much love. And may the Triforce be with you. Appreciate you guys all.